This evening we're joined by Ian Getty, a former Infanteer who left the military and then went on the private security circuit. He's now working at Cesium, having retrained, and we're going to find out how he got to where he is today. So thank you, Ian, for joining us for this TechVets podcast. Can you tell me a bit about your military experience?
Yeah, so I joined the army in '99. I did 14 years. It was infantry, Royal Irish. Did all the usual stuff that was going about. At that time, Iraq, Afghanistan, a few other sort of bits and pieces, Kosovo and stuff. And yeah, pretty normal infantry kind of career for 14 years. I'd like to say there was something special or something I could highlight here, but there's not. It was a pretty average military career.
What made you leave after 14 years?
I was quite tired. We'd been busy. It was a busy 10 years or whatever after 9/11. And it had just been a busy 14 years all around. I think I think you kind of know. I can't speak for other veterans. I know a lot that have done their full time, but at the same time, there's that many that get out before they've done the full time. I think you just know when it's time for a change.
And I think you're right. That was an incredibly busy period, the time when you were serving. It's something that we hear time and time again, just back-to-back tours or off on short deployments, back away again. And that pace is quite frantic. So when you left after 14 years, how did you find the transition?
I didn't really find it like a transition straight away because I did the kind of veteran thing and went straight into private security. So I think I left the army in September and went to Iraq in November, and that was me for the next 3 years. And private security on the circuit out in Iraq and places like that it's similar to the military. It's not the massive adjustment you would have going directly onto Civvy Street. There's a lot of familiar stuff there, which makes it not that difficult.
What made you come out of the private security circuit? Because I guess you could have just stayed doing that.
It was much the same for me as the military. I was burnt out. I ended up doing private security type stuff for about, I think, 8 years. I actually ended up in Ukraine, basically burnt out. And I started to show signs of PTSD, and had to come home.
Yeah.
I'd had too long away. And the plan was always to go back out there. It's not normal military mindset. I'll have 2 weeks off. I'll go back, but it just wasn't happening this time.
What kind of thing were you doing in Ukraine?
I worked for the Foreign Office out there. It was kind of quite a big organization. I can only describe it like it's sort of like a European version of the UN, where all the countries send different representatives. I was part of a drone team out there, so we used to fly drones over the front line in eastern Ukraine for 5 years, something like that. And I was just getting imagery and doing sort of not intelligence because it was all quite open, but doing a kind of low level intelligence sort of a thing on what was happening on the front line. We did 5 years of that, essentially flying drones and imagery analysis and stuff like that.
How did you know you were getting close to the point of burnout?
I probably had the big symptom of anxiety for about 2 years before I left, where I was doing patrols where I shouldn't have been nervous and feeling sick, but I was. And you're trying to hold it in, so you're spending every day trying not to show that you do not want to be here. But I don't know, is it military mindset that don't quit tomorrow, whatever they say?
Did you feel like it was a huge burden when you finished the military service, you finished the private security work, and just stepping back, did you feel a weight lifted off your shoulders?
Maybe in some way, but also no, because like I said, I always planned to go back. My mindset was always to go back to Ukraine until suddenly I couldn't. And it leaves you out there in real Civvy Street with no direction. So I had no idea what was going to happen next. So yeah, suddenly I was in the real world with sort of 20 years experience going around these places like Iraq and Afghanistan and really trying to work out how do I put that into, what do I do with that now?
What support was available to you, or were you able to tap into at that time in your life?
I got involved with some good charities over here in, well, not just Northern Ireland, Combat Stress is there, but a couple of good charities in Northern Ireland. My GP, he was fantastic. So I work with it. I still actually work with them. Yeah, they were brilliant. I mean, they can be quite tough to get into at the start, but once you're in, they were fantastic. So yeah, on that side of it, I just work with them. I've been with them for, I don't know now. I'm trying to think what year it is. Nearly 2 years, maybe.
It's really good to hear you being so honest about those issues that you've dealt with, because I think many people deal with the same issues but aren't open about them. I think there's far more people than we realize who actually need help and don't know where to find it, or haven't had that moment where they realize that they actually do need to get some help. It's an interesting angle to kind of think of, because they kind of go hand in hand, mental health and having a job where you derive value, but you're also valued for your skills. And your story, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but it's a good news story in so many ways, because you're now with Cesium. How did
Yeah.
you get into, from where you were to where you are now, working with Cesium in cyber intelligence?
I had a friend involved with an Australian company that did something similar to TechVets, free training, for veterans. I'd started that when I was on sick leave with the idea of taking that back to Ukraine. When Ukraine didn't turn up, or when I found out that I wouldn't get cleared to go back, I actually applied for a job with them and got it. And they were just coming to the UK. So I started doing low coding with them, trained up and got a posting with them, which was that was kind of their model, was to train you up and then they send you out to sort of big companies around the UK or wherever it might be. So that worked out for a bit until I realized I hated low coding. Yeah, it wasn't for me. So I actually asked that company again, and they were okay to me. I said, "Can I switch to the cybersecurity pathway?" And they let me do it. So I got about a month with their cybersecurity team, just learning some stuff before they had kind of business issues I don't understand, investment issues, but a lot of the company were laid off, including the security team. So that was kind of a throwback to where I'd been a year before. I'm back in Civvy Street and I don't know what I'm doing. I was kind of on a job hunt then for a cybersecurity job with no security experience and very little in the way of qualifications. I mean, obviously, TechVets, I got in touch with James, who did a lot on LinkedIn on my behalf, which is a big thing because you've got that reputation. Sort of say, it adds something to my CV. I'm kind of saying I've no experience. Someone pushing you or fighting your corner is very, very good. With Cesium, I had them purely by luck. A friend that I worked with in the old company spotted an advert on LinkedIn and he said we should both go for this, and we did. And as you know, they're big into helping veterans. And it was quite quick after that. They sort of, I think we had 2 interviews, and we're now, what are we, 3-4 months down the line. We're going well.
So you didn't go head to head for one job?
Well, no, I knew if there was one job, he would get it. He's streets ahead of me. But I thought, why not have a crack? And yeah, it's worked out. Well, we're both at Cesium now.
Did you both get told on the same day that you got the roles?
No, he was about 3 days before me, so my heart was going for about 3 days. Everything for him happened about 3 days before.
Oh my goodness, that must have been really nerve-wracking.
It was because, yeah, my thought was he would get it, and he should, and rightly so. But at the same time, I knew they were looking for, I think at the time they were looking for 2 level 1s. So I thought, well, we might as well go for it. We'd done a lot of the same job applications before and had sort of the same result. So I thought, why not? And it worked out. And as you know Cesium, they're pretty big on the veteran bit. So yeah, again, like I say, like the rest of my career, I think I probably got slightly lucky.
So what's your role at Cesium? So the role that you went for and the role that you're in now, are they the same?
Yeah, I've level 1 SOC analyst.
What
Um,
training did you have to do? Because you've already said that you had an ambition to go into cybersecurity, but you didn't necessarily have as many training qualifications as other people on the market. But what did you go into that interview with in terms of formal cybersecurity qualifications?
Formal, very little. I like to think I kind of made up enough in terms of informal knowledge of just working out how everything works, and that sort of thing, where I was able to get through the interview showing that I knew a bit about it. So it was a case of constantly on YouTube watching videos rather than sitting down for a course, which is maybe going to take 2, 3, 4 months, because you don't have that time when you're looking for a job because there's bills to pay. I did have the experience from the old company in the SOC, which helped. So I'd had a pretty intensive 4 weeks with them, just learning how it works. So it was just enough knowledge and experience to get me over the line.
Did you do any, or have you done any more training through TechVets while you've been in the role?
Yeah, I'm on their Splunk training at the minute. Splunk, the training's great. That's actually one of the targets we have at Cesium. So they give you targets. There's qualifications you need in certain timelines. How you go about them is slightly up to yourself. I was already on the Splunk stuff in TechVet, so I've just cracked on with it. So it's just a case of going through that at the minute, along with, how do I put it? After 3 months, every day's a school day in there. And it's just constant questions. What is this?
Cesium is renowned for being veteran-owned, veteran-founded company, but there are civilians who work there too. What's the office dynamic? Well, I guess you work, remotely a lot of the time, but when you're all together, what are the dynamics like between those of you who served and the civvies, the through and through civvies?
I don't feel like there really is. There's not like a them and us sort of a feel. Definitely not. It's more, I suppose, something like you get in the military, where we're the L1s, we're the junior ranks. Let's join together, and you're the next rank up, and it feels more like that. I can't feel a difference between, or some kind of tension, whatever you want to say. I don't think you would be able to notice the difference if you came in from the outside and had a look.
I think that's great to hear and really reassuring for many people who could potentially be in the same position as you, starting out on their tech or cybersecurity career and wondering if they've got a hope in hell of getting a foot in the door and being taken on and being accepted. But from what you've just said, it's you just have to give it a go. And going back to when you started looking for this next job, did you ever think you'd be where you are now?
Somewhere as good as Cesium, no. That cyber job hunt can be pretty soul destroying. It seems like a lot of people have very different views of what they want from the same job description. So you're definitely going to do a lot of horrible interviews, and you're going to meet a lot of companies that say they want veterans, and they do want veterans. They want to tick a box, but they want a cyber expert with 10 years experience who just happens to be a veteran, rather than sort of looking at what the veteran brings. So you get a lot of that. It can be soul destroying.
When you went for some of these interviews, what kind of questions did you get asked? And are there any that stick in your mind as tricky ones that you would flag to other people who might be going through the same thing?
Specific questions, no. I think they're generally, it's the technical interviews that will catch people out as they're sort of going for their first job. You're interviewing with people that are quite high. They can quite easily outwit you in a technical interview, and I think some of them do. Maybe not. It's maybe not malicious. It's probably just to see what level you're actually at. Some of them will be expecting you to be at a much higher level than you are, like I said about the job descriptions. So yeah, you can go into some of these technical interviews and you just won't be near the level, and then you just have a pretty horrendous 45 minutes of not knowing anything because it is just above your level. But then you'll hit the interview which is at your level. I would say a lot of people that are advertising for a level one aren't really interviewing for a level one or an entry level position. They're interviewing for someone much better. So be it. You just have to. It's going to happen.
Why do you think they do that?
Suppose a lot of companies, rightfully so, they know exactly what they want, and it is someone that's quite high up. If you're going straight into a big company, it's probably a difficult business decision to say we'll take a gamble on this guy who's a veteran but not that experienced and hope that it comes good in 6 months. That's probably a bit of a gamble.
What do you think you bring to your role above someone who hasn't had that lived experience, that camaraderie, the ability to get on with people?
It's hard to I mean, it is that lived experience. There's so much that will, you've went through something like Afghanistan. You're going to survive in a sock. You're going to survive. And I think one of the big things that's overlooked is I think when people leave the military, there's a real hunger for proper qualifications. I know so many people with master's degrees or they're going for degrees. It's something in the military mindset when they get out that they want like I don't know if it's like a formal academic recognition of what they know, as well as just saying, oh, I was in the army. And the other side is that, the army's not completely non-technical. I was infantry and we did technical stuff. There's people in there that are really, really going to bring some skills to wherever they go. They've already got them.
But perhaps they just don't know they've got them, or how to translate them, I guess.
How to translate them maybe would be one of the big things. Because yeah, I mean definitely there's some technical geniuses in the military. And you've seen, I'll say again, Size, you've seen the guys that run that. They're not amateurs and they've brought that from the military. So I always say, it's cybersecurity is pretty similar to normal security. It's different tools, but it's the same thing really. It's the same principles. You just gotta learn them new tools.
That's a really good way of putting it across, because actually it's not like you've really jumped into a different career at all, because you've always worked in security. It's just this time you haven't got a rifle, you've got a laptop or a SOC to fight from or fight with.
It can be a bit daunting because it's a kind of a different language, computer language, tech language, but I think everything I understand inside my brain is just an analogy with the old security. A firewall's like a big concrete wall. Some stuff gets in, some stuff doesn't. You decide what. That's how I get my head around tech. So yeah, I mean, people already have that experience. It's just you're just picking up a different tool set and a different language. But if you've survived in the military with their acronyms and sort of that language they talk, you'll pick it up soon.
I think that's really good advice, because there are so many acronyms, and I mean, who really knows what they all mean in the military anyway?
You join the military, you don't know what anyone's talking about. It's the same with tech. Very soon you will. You just pick them up. So that's how I see it. It's yeah. I mean, I don't even think you always need to be looking at the soft skills. The military bring tech skills, and I think the soft skills are on top of that. That's the bonus.
And I guess it's just packaging that up when you pulling together your CV. And with TechVets, with their volunteer team of CV reviewers, did you ever reach out to the CV review team at TechVets, or reach out for advice on the Discord channel? Or did you kind of find yourself on the road to Cesium without having to need to tap into those resources?
I went for the CV review, but luckily didn't need it. Not long after I did that, I got the Cesium job. So
So you got the Cesium job without on off the back of the CV that you wrote, without any help from anyone else?
I didn't get the TechVets review, but I have probably 300 different CVs on my desktop at the minute, where I changed it after every interview or every application. And so I was constantly changing it and sort of adapting it to see what went wrong there. Right, let's change something. So, but yet, if you can get that sorted right off the bat at the start, where that's not something you're worrying about, that's another bonus.
Wow, I think going back to CV writing and having to apply for jobs, I mean, God, it's fantastic that you're with Cesium now, and you can you can almost file those 300 different versions of the CVs somewhere else. Well,
Yeah,
hopefully you'll never have to use them again.
that's what I'm hoping. But yeah, we'll keep them just in case.
It's it's been fantastic to talk to you tonight, Ian, and thank you for being so honest, really, about the journey that's got you here. And I call it a journey because I don't think it really is a massive change for you. It sounds like you've found your niche in security, and you've just moved with the times and your personal needs to move into security in a career, an environment that is optimum for you. So it's been really good to listen to that in your own words.
You're happy that works. I'm happy.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll let you go because I'm sure you've got some Splunk training or something better to do with your evening.
I've got 2 dogs to feed, so
Brilliant.
keep in touch. I'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
All right.
If you've been inspired by Ian's story and you want to find out how you can retrain with TechVets, just head over to www.techvets.co. If you've been affected by any of the issues that we discuss in this podcast, you can reach out to Combat Stress. You'll find them at www.combatstress.org.uk. Thank you for listening.